Thank you for staying with us. Karfi is a consulting firm introducing entrepreneurs to pools of resources and providing guidance to members of the African diaspora. Through their GenVolution conference and Iron Series podcast, they seek to connect and exchange knowledge. Joining us now to tell us more is Karfi founder Seun Shokunbi. Did I say it correctly?
Shokunbi.
Shokunbi, I'm sorry about that.
Of course.
Now, talk a little bit about your organization. I know we were talking during the break, but it seems very interesting, and you're all about uplifting people in the African diaspora.
Yes. So I always start with the mission statement. Karfi's mission is to obtain and sustain resources for aspiring African leaders. And it's very intentional that I wrote the mission statement that way because through my research, I have a master's degree in international management focused on North Africa region. And through my research, I saw a lot of movements or interactions with the international community in Africa that I wasn't too proud of. And so now my goal is to make sure that there are more Africans actually taking charge of their own leadership, that's taking charge of their own development, rather than always having to lean on others in order to advance themselves.
Okay. And now some of the events that you all hold, talk a little bit about that.
Well, this is going to be our inaugural event, actually, the
Okay.
GenVolution conference, and it was sparked out of that, again, initial desire to see more Africans in charge of our socioeconomic advancement. As we're coming up with millennials and Gen Zers who are now going to be the new ones that take control once the old guard passes on,
Right.
I want to make sure that we go into whatever work that we're doing in the future for that continent with intentionality and making sure that we're doing it together as a team as well. Millennials and Gen Zers are characterized as people who want to go into work with a true mission and a cause behind it. They don't just want to make money. They want to make sure that they have a life's purpose that they're pursuing as well in their work. So it's an opportunity for them to come together and have a conversation about how can we do whatever we want to do, whether it's start our own businesses, whether we still want to go into traditional routes, whether we want to be doctors, lawyers, or engineers, which is what African parents usually direct us to, or if you want to be even in the music industry or in media and entertainment. How do we do that with the intentionality of uplifting the African people?
And the name Karfi, that's so beautiful, and it sounds so interesting. What does that mean?
So it's a Hausa word from Nigeria. I'm actually of Nigerian descent,
Okay.
yes, and it means iron. And my tagline for the organization is to sharpen iron. So making sure that each one of us are educating each other, bringing resources to the table to uplift one another and also empower each other to do whatever amazing work we want to do.
And tell us a little bit about the Iron Series podcast. I know you mentioned it a little bit before, but
Yeah.
go into that.
Okay, so that was the original vision behind the doing the educational part of Karfi. So the GenVolution conference is now an opportunity for us to come in person and have these conversations. But the Iron Series podcast was an opportunity for me to have conversations with people in my network who are already doing the work that I'm hoping to inspire other young people to do, who are going back to their home countries and saying, I want to start these different type of businesses. My friend actually described it as how I built this podcast for Africans. So it's literally taking you step by step on how to build a sustainable business that's not only helping you to provide for yourself, but it's also helping others.
Understand. And then why is it so important to share, I guess, the importance of the African diaspora?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of times when I've been using that phrase, people would think immediately, oh, you're talking about people who directly have a tie back to a specific country in Africa. And I'm thinking about it in a very broader sense. Because of transatlantic trade, we are all over the place, right? We're Afro-Latinos, we're Afro-Caribbeans. Some of us are in Europe because of moving there for a better lifestyle, some of us in the US. And I feel like, and that also includes the African-American community, and I feel a lot of us are disjointed because of that, and we're just going into our little silos and saying, well, we'll just work with this immediate community that we relate to in order to do whatever, uplift our communities and things like that. And I want to bring back a sense of Pan-Africanism where we are all having a conversation about what can we do, like what is working well in our little section of where we're living in order to make sure that all of us are benefiting, to pull our resources together and make sure that one group is not feeling that they're left out of that total advancement.
And just like you just said, you don't want someone to feel left out. And I guess that brings me to my next point about collaboration versus competition. What is...
That's becoming my new tagline.
Yeah, I see.
So I said that on another podcast series that I was on, and I was referring to it in the matter of when we do decide that we want to start our own businesses and we do decide we want to do something of benefit that is not for our own glory, as to make sure that is in an effort to, for the greater good, basically, is an effort to bring people together and say, you know, this is what I'm really talented at, so I'll offer and lend my resources here. Or, you know, this is who I have access to in terms of contacts, and I'll provide that to you so that we can all, again, for the better common goal of making sure that we all boats, you know, lift up to the top, and not just one person gets glorified. And when you go into this entrepreneurship space, you know, there's a lot of competitions that a lot of money is on the line. And so people, that's what usually makes people feel like they need to just work on their own. And what I want to do is, you know, get rid of that and not say that, you know, I just want to have the attention because of this competition that I'm going after, or this resource that I need that's very scarce. But say that, again, when I do win this, how can I also share that wealth with other people, again, for the greater good.
And what are some of the challenges for small businesses in the African diaspora?
Mainly resources, capital, access to capital, and that's financial, and that's also social capital. So that's another reason why I've decided to do the GenVolution conference, is because I want to introduce young people to the people that would have the networks that they would want to connect to in order to figure out, like, is this the best route for me professionally to go? Is this truly my calling in whatever, you know, issue that I'm passionate about? So social capital is big, and making sure that you have the mentors to guide you through that thought process, but also, again, financial capital. Even if you have the vision, if you don't have the resources to actually put it into action, it's impossible to see it through.
Definitely. And what we were just talking about is when we think about the African diaspora, the Caribbean and the West Indies are kind of left out, and we just kind of focus solely on Africa. Why is it important to you that everyone is included in that?
Well, because, so going back to Nigeria, I see that there's still a lot of poverty, and there's still a lot of issues that are happening because of past colonialism and even neocolonialism that's happening now. So people who are still pillaging our resources for their own personal gain, and those are other countries, right? Same exact thing is happening in the West Indies and Jamaica and Haiti. You know, Haiti is is the poorest country in the world, right? So I don't think that I think it behooves us to say, you know, what has worked for us, and making sure that those people who still have connections to us through our heritage also know those best practices of how to empower themselves to, again, fix whatever is going on in their communities.
All right. So just give your information one more time, and where can we find out more about this?
So you should follow GenVolution Conference on Instagram and Facebook, and you can also go to my website, www.karfi.org. All the information is there.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. For tickets to the GenVolution conference, visit genvolution.splashthat.com. To find out more, visit karfi.org and follow them on Instagram at GenVolution Conference. Stay tuned for more Open after this.